Hi, we're back. We're going to do turkey so you can be prepared for Thursday's Thanksgiving. If you're doing a great big whole turkey, I would make a couple of recommendations. Depending on how big your group is, a large turkey takes so long to cook and you have to get up so early in the morning. Often the breast is really overdone by the time you get the dark meat done or the underside of the bird, because we won't roast breast up. I suggest, if you have a really large group, either roast two smaller turkeys or roast a turkey and then have like two breasts that are taken off of the dark meat and roast those as well, and then you can carve those in the kitchen while they're carving the whole turkey at the table. They cook a lot faster. You'll be surprised at how juicy your breast is when you don't have to try to get the dark meat done in addition to. If you need more dark meat, you can actually buy a whole turkey and separate it raw, or you can buy just the turkey leg and thigh and the breast separately and roast them separately so that the dark meat gets done, because it takes a little longer, and you don't overcook the breast. That's really my best advice. I had a chef one time that I worked for who he would blanch or poach his turkey just slightly in salted water before he roasted it, and it made sure that the dark meat got done without overcooking the breast. I'm going to kosher this. I just cook a breast for you today, and then I'm going to show you how to carve it. And we're going to roast it just like we would a whole turkey, but it's just not going to take as long. And we're just going to get the white meat. This does not even have the wings on it. It's all been cut. It's hollowed out. It's been cleaned. But I'm going to kosher this. I've rinsed it once, and now I'm going to put it in fresh, cold water that has salt in it. We did this with the chicken before. Make sure it's dissolved. And I'm just going to spend 20 or 30 minutes with the meat side down in that water. And I don't know, through osmosis or something, it cleans it up. It kills a lot of the bacteria that might be on the skin. But it also seems to enhance the meat. It makes it more moist and a little bit flavored with the salt. So turkey can be so bland, that's a good thing. So we're going to do 30 minutes of that, and I'll be back and I'll show you how to pop it in the oven. We're back. The turkey's been in the salt water for 30 minutes. So I'm just going to take this out and dry it off. We'll get a much better color. We don't want it to steam when we first put it in the oven. We've got the oven preheated to 450. We'll turn that temperature down as soon as we put that turkey in, but the whole point of having that hot when we put the turkey in is to sort of sear it and brown it and keep it all juicy, and if it's all wet, that won't happen. So, now I never stuff a turkey because I just feel like it's not as safe sanitary-wise as it is to just put the stuffing in the pan and set the turkey on it. But I really like to capture the drippings for the gravy. And I know there are a lot of people who actually cook their turkey in those browning bags. That's not really roasting, that's more like steaming. And I don't do it that way, but if that works for you and you're happy, you just go right ahead. But you want to save the drippings in the bottom because that's what makes a good gravy. But you know, if you want to stuff your bird, that's fine. You just need to make sure that you have cooked that until the stuffing is the proper temperature. I would say 170 degrees, because anything less than that could bring food poisoning, maybe even hotter. But you might overcook your turkey a little bit in getting the stuffing done. So anyway, I'm just going to cook this breast as is with no stuffing in the pan. And I told you before we could use carrots, celery, and onions, but it's not totally necessary. It's just an enhancement, and I don't have any carrots and celery, so I'm just going to use onions. That just goes to show you you can do it in more than one way. That's nice. That's how I want it to sit. And I'm going to take garlic, which I always rub on meat, and I have smashed these. And I'm going to rub this all over the skin. And then I'm actually going to rub it all over the cavity. It's juicy. And now I'm actually going to go under the skin. And you can just put your fingers in through there. It just takes a little bit of separating it from the breast. And I'm going to rub my garlic down into that. Keep going. So that the meat will have good flavor. There it is. You can see you just have to work it a little bit. That one's sticking. Okay. And now I'm going to put a little bit of butter in there just because turkey's so darn dry. And I'm going to put it under the skin. The fat of the bird is actually under the skin already, so I'm just going to add a little and enhance that. And as this melts, it will baste the breast. Okay, I just got a little in there. There we go. Okay, and get my hands from being too slimy. I've got a little fresh thyme in the garden. In a northern climate, this stuff grows even out through the snow, so I'm going to put a little bit in the cavity, which is right here. And then I'm going to put the rest of this under the skin with the butter, so that as the butter melts, it's going to have that thyme flavor. And now I'm going to just put a little bit of salt all over the bird. This will salt the gravy as well. Put some of that in there too. And a couple of bay leaves. Stick that right in there. And my bird is ready to go in the oven. There we go. I'm sort of cheating because I am not roasting the whole bird. I'm just sticking that skin down on the neck so that it's not going to creep down or shrink. It's going to cover the whole breast throughout the cooking. Alrighty then, here we go. Into the oven. As I said, I preheated to 450. Whoops, I'm going to have to lower that shelf. But I'm going to turn it down right now to 350. And we'll come back when that bird is starting to brown. We have made cream leeks before. I did this in an earlier segment, but I've told you that I make this for my family holiday dinners. So I am making this for this dinner because we're going to eat this. Let's take a look at our turkey. Oh, you can see the skin is nice and taut and starting to brown. I'm going to take a little butter and I'm just going to rub it on the top for basting. I'm going to show you how I do that. I'm a pretty lazy cook, actually. I don't like to do anything extra. And I don't have to. So see, I just take there's no juices yet really in the bottom to baste with, and I don't want to make this real greasy in the bottom either, but I do want that to be nicely basted. So that's all it takes. Back in. I figure it'll take about an hour and a half for this turkey. It's 4.8 pounds. So an hour and a half, an hour and 20 minutes, and then we'll give it a look. I think our turkey has about 10 to 20 minutes left, and then we'll bring it out to let it rest. It'll continue to cook. But I want to show you what it's going to look like. How pretty she is. And you can use a little more browning. You can see our bay leaves in there. The butter has melted down inside. You can see the browning. Show the browning. We don't want very much browning. We don't want a brown gravy, but we want a little bit of caramelization. That's what will give the gravy good flavor. So, since I know I'm approaching the end, I'm going to rotate this, get a little more brown here. And I've got sweet potatoes in the oven here in foil, which means they're going to steam. They're not actually roasting, and it'll make the skin more tender, and I'll lose less when I'm eating it off the skin. Sweet potatoes have the most nutrition of any vegetable, ounce per ounce, in your produce section, so this is a really good thing to eat. And my potatoes are finished, and so I'm going to go ahead and mash the potatoes. Then when the meat comes out, the meat will come out of the pan, and I'll make the gravy while I finish the leeks, and then our meal will be ready. You can see the leeks are already tender, and I got a little bit of brown on them, which I normally don't really like, but it just makes them taste sweeter. They're not quite as pretty. But I'm going to wait till the turkey's out, and then I'll reduce this cream. So those are on hold. Here are the potatoes. You can see that they've sort of broken apart, which means they're beautifully tender and I will have no lumps. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm going to drain these. And I'm going to show you how I make mashed potatoes. So you just take that water off. Be really careful, ladies or men, so you don't steam yourself. You can see they just almost break up. I don't want them any mushier than that. If I had to hold them, I would go ahead and drain the water off, put the lid on, and set them on the back of the stove to stay warm. But if you let them get any softer than that, they'll just get mushy. So nice and tender. They go right into my mixer. You can do this by hand or with an electric mixer. This sure makes life easier. And now most of you probably use milk and butter, but cream is milk and butter, and it's just easier. So I am going to add just cream, and I don't preheat the cream because adding a hot liquid to a hot potato will make it gluey, and I don't like gluey potatoes. I like fluffy potatoes. So I know I've salted the water. I'm not going to need too much salt. I'm going to start with a little, or they won't have any flavor. And I told you before I don't like white pepper, so in goes the black pepper. And I'm going to beat these dry until I'm positive I have no lumps. So we start out slow, break them up, and now we're going to turn it on high. Grab my spatula. And they're moist, they're tender, so they're just almost making mashed potatoes without any liquid. Can you see how they're coming together in the center? Okay, I can see I have a nice creaminess in there. So I know I have no lumps. So here we go, a little bit of cream. Ooh, they're creamy. They smell wonderful. If potatoes can smell wonderful. And as you know, when you hold potatoes, the starch makes them tighter. So when you're mixing them in the mixer, you want to make them a little bit loose, because as they sit in the bowl for the 6 minutes it takes to get them to the table, they're going to tighten up a little bit. Okay, I'm going to check for salt and pepper. Oh, they're creamy. Like a mousseline. They need a teensy bit of salt. They won't taste like anything until you get the salt right, so don't serve bland mashed potatoes. They're horrible. If they're properly seasoned, they will be delicious without gravy. Oh my God, Oliver, you're gonna die. Oh, they're so good. You don't want the taste to die on your tongue. You need enough salt so that the taste lasts all throughout. You get the good potato. You'll be able to tell that. Okay, now you have a taste, Ollie, and you tell me. Good potato taste? Well, that didn't take that much cream, did it? I'm thinking a half a cup for 4 potatoes. So that comes out to 2 tablespoons per person, and it's only 30% butter fat. So we haven't overdone the butter. Now what I can do while I'm waiting for my turkey, I can either put this back in the pan and put the lid on it, or I can put a little bit of foil over this to keep this warm. And that's what I'm going to do. Okay, be back with the turkey as soon as she's ready. Okay, you can see I've taken this turkey out. We've cooked at the proper time. I don't actually have my thermometer on me, or I would just stick it in there and see where we are. But I'm going to do what you're not supposed to do, which is to poke it, because it makes the juices run out. But I just want to push this in next to the bone and see what we've got. And if the juices are running clear, here they come, then we'll know that we have reached the proper temperature. Another way is to actually, oh yeah, the knife is nice and hot. If you put it in there, and the metal will absorb the temperature, and if you pull it out and it's not hot, it's hot, then you'll know that you haven't reached the proper temperature. I'm not getting any bloods running out, so I think we're good. You can see I've got good caramelization. The onions have contributed, and I'm going to leave this rest for about 15-20 minutes. And the juices, when the heat goes away, the juices will disperse back out throughout the meat, and it'll be nice and juicy. If you cut into it too soon, the juices just run out of the meat, and then it's dry. So a lot of juices are going to come out around the pan, and Meanwhile, I'm going to get the rest of my turkey dinner together. I'm going to go turn those leeks on. Potatoes are ready. I'm going to check on anything else, like if I have a green bean casserole or a stuffing. And in a little bit, when these juices come out, I'm going to thicken this gravy real quick. I'll tell you, when you carve a turkey at the table, usually they carve like this. It might be turned around, in which case they're carving like this. But I don't like to do it that way, because let me show you. When you do that, come on, whoops, it's still a little hot. What you're doing, see how the grain is running this way? You're actually cutting with the grain, so it makes the meat stringy. You don't ever want to cut with the grain. You want to cut against the grain. So I don't really like to carve my turkey at the table. I like to do this. I'm going to take the breast right off the bone, and I'm going to lay it the opposite way, and I'm going to cut against the grain. I'm just pulling the neck out here, make it a little easier. That can go in here for the gravy. And then I'm going to cut right down the center, and it slipped to one side, so now I'm going to go to the other side. But that's the breastbone. The breastbone comes right up to the skin. And now, it's very hot, so you kind of want to be careful. You might need some tongs. And you just feel around in there, because it's too hot to really pull with your fingers, and you can kind of cut along the bone. This is going to fall off here in a half second. Here's where here we go. There's the joint. And see how that just came right off? Now this is what you can be doing in the kitchen, whoops, while the gentlemen are carving the turkey at the table, but they're not going to have enough breast meat for everybody. So if you've cooked an extra breast, you can be doing this in the kitchen, and everybody's going to get some while it's hot. And it is hot. Okay, here we go. There it goes, just comes right off. And now all I have left is this carcass, which, if you want to make soup for the rest of the week, you can save these bones and make a nice stock. Whoops, I pulled the skin off, but there we go. So now I have my two breasts, nice crusty skin, and I'm going to slice them. The grain is running this way, so I'm going to slice against the grain. So I'm going to slice like this. That's how it's going to be. It's still a teensy bit hot, so it's pulling apart a little. So what I'm going to do is let this finish cooling while I take these drippings and I come and make gravy. And you can do that at home as well. You can let your turkey rest until it's really slicing nicely. And go ahead and get everything else ready. Okay, here we are. We're going to make gravy. I'm going to go ahead and break this neck up, if I can. Break it into parts so we can get the flavor out of it. There's not much meat on a neck, but we want to extract all the flavor. So this is going to come to a boil. We're going to get all those good things off the bottom of the pan best we can. When it boils, it'll come off. Yum. Okay, I'm just rinsing my ham, and I'm going to make a slurry, which we've made before, with cornstarch and water. Now, of course, you could thicken this with a roux, which is equal parts by weight, fat or butter, and flour. But that will make a gravy that's not clear. And I want to make a clear gravy for Thanksgiving, and I want to do it as easily as possible. But you can always add a cold roux to a hot liquid, and it'll thicken up very quickly. This, however, only takes 30 seconds or a minute. So I'm going to add a little cold water to this. I'm going to let this boil up so that all my goodies come off the bottom of the pan. Be right back, one sec. I add just enough water to make that liquid. And I'm going to add a little bit of chicken stock. We have a lot of people. That'll be enough gravy. I'm going to check for salt. It probably doesn't need a whole lot because our bird was salted. So our drippings are nice and salty. Not salty, but they taste good. I want to bring this to a boil. Let it boil a little bit to get all those colors off into the gravy. I'm going to bring my leeks back to a boil. My potatoes are hot. My sweet potatoes are just about ready. The chutney's cooked and the turkey is ready. So we're about to wrap this meal in plate. Let me taste. It needs a little bit of pepper. To do a review on Cooking Leeks, click on the link below to see the whole process from beginning to end. But these are ready, so I'm moving to the gravy. And I've let this boil up a little bit. And as you can see, all of the juice, the goodies, the dark stuff on the bottom of the pan has come into the gravy. That's why they say the goodies are always on the bottom of the pan. Grieblings, as they call them. So now we just stir this slurry in. And you'll see it turn clear again. As soon as it's clear, the starch has been cooked out. If you need to add a little more to get the consistency that you want, you just stir in a little more. If you've cooked your turkey in a bag, like I said before, don't throw away the juices. Just strain them before they go into the gravy boat, because you don't want to leave all these pieces in here, but this is where all the flavor is. So don't throw that away and then open a jar of pre-made gravy, because it's just not going to taste the same. Here we go. I'm going to add just a little more. This will thicken a little bit more as it sits at the table, so you don't want it too thick. But I don't want it running off my mashed potatoes either. So here we go. We're all set. Okay, I'm going to plate and you're going to see how pretty it is. That's how juicy my bird was. Turkey doesn't have to be dry. But once it's gone on the board, I don't put those back into the gravy. Okay, we're nice and cooled enough to handle, so here we go. We're going to slice. Oh, it's so moist. It's ridiculously moist. This is the small end, so they're coming out in small slices, which is fine. I'll give a little bit of skin to that person. Here we go. Let's plate this up so you can see how pretty it'll be. Some of our nice mashed potatoes that are still creamy. We'll make a little dip in there. Let's get some chutney. Right there next to the turkey. Oh. And some leeks. There we go. That goes next to the turkey as well. I'm going to get my sweet potato out and we're going to pour some gravy over. Back in 1 second. Okay, we're straining the gravy. What a beautiful color. Okay, let's give it a quick taste. It's perfect. It's got enough salt to it that it's really going to jazz everything up. It's going to be a great enhancer to this meat. You can see my sweet potato is nice and tender. Let me show you. Very tender. And here we go. Thanksgiving. I hope you enjoy this. Thanks so much for joining us. And I have an apple pie recipe on the site as well, so that you can make an apple pie ahead of time if you need to.